Welcome to my final Lost. Season 5 episode review video, as this will include both episode 16 and 17, which is the Lost Season 5 finale. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, if you're not caught up to the point where I am in rewatching or watching Lost, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, if you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen the TV series Lost 3 other times. It's in my top 5 favorite TV shows of all time. I absolutely love it. But I'm not the only one that's currently watching Lost. Hopefully you are too, but the legendary Crazy Coffee Man, who you see in my comments section for Lucifer, Dexter, Dexter New Blood, Dexter Original Sin, Breaking Bad, and some physical media related videos, is actually watching Lost for the very first time. So he's in for a real treat. So join us on the journey and let's discuss this awesome and amazing show in the comments section. However, I don't want to see any spoilers past this episode in this video. So with all that said, this will be Lost Season 5, Episode 16, and Season 5, Episode 16. Parts 1 and 2. The title of the episode is called The Incident Part 1 and Part 2. And this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. We start off with a flashback from way back in the day. A blonde man who's dressed in a white shirt and black pants, Paul Bennett from Dexter, is in a stoned column room spinning thread for a upholstery. He is weaving and using a long-bladed knife as a beater. Outside on the beach, he snares a fish and cooks it on a rock over a fire, and he eats. As he eats, he watches a ship on the horizon, the Black Rock. Another man, dressed in black, approaches him. He asks how the ship found the island, and accuses the blonde man of having brought it here or there. He declares that one day he will find a loophole which will allow him to kill the blonde man, and the blonde man appears annoyed by this, promising to return. When you do, I'll be right here. The man in the black shirt says, always nice talking to you, Jacob. So we finally see Jacob. Finally, they've been talking about Jacob for so long, and he's here. You know him as Mark Peligro from Dexter. Well, he's in other stuff, not even in Dexter that much, but he's finally arrived. But Jacob walks away as the statue is finally shown in its colossal entirety. Then we have a flashback. Kate instructs her friend Tom on their upcoming mission. They're young kids at this point. They enter a general store, and Kate attempts to steal I believe it was a New Kids on the Block lunchbox. While at first it seems as if she has succeeded, she's caught on her way out by the store shopkeeper, Mr. Springer, I believe, who threatens to call the police, and her mother. Jacob appears behind Kate and offers to pay for the lunchbox, which satisfies the shopkeeper, who warns Kate never to return to the store without her parents. Jacob then makes Kate promise to never steal again. She agrees, and Jacob teasingly touches her nose and tells her to be good. Back on the island, Kate, Juliet, and Sawyer are on the submarine, leaving the island. And we have Jack and Saeed dismantle the hydrogen bomb in order to remove its core, which is the crucial explosive. Richard mentions that Jack knows John and Richard had met John Locke on 3 separate occasions and sensed nothing particularly special about him. Jack tells Richard not to give up on John Locke. Saeed explains that he will be able to modify the bomb core so that it will dethrone on impact. Richard addresses his skepticism in Locke, stating that though the island has done miraculous things, it has never brought someone back to life. Locke counters that he has never seen a man that has never aged, with Richard attributes to Jacob. Locke says he wants to thank Jacob, and Locke tells Richard that they must also take care of the other Ajiro passengers. When asked, Locke simply answers, "You know what I mean." And then we have a group of survivors from his Giro Flight 316, including Ilana and Bram, paddle a canoe to the main island, bringing with them Frank Lapidus and a giant metal crate from the cargo of the plane. When Frank wakes, they tell him he may be a candidate and could be a friend to them. They open the crate. Frank is not. When they open it, he's like, "Oh my lord!" And then he's like, "Terrific." So what is in that crate? Then we have another flashback. A funeral is being held for Mr. and Mrs. Ford. An 8-year-old James Ford Sawyer quietly looks on as their coffins are being loaded into hearses. James is beginning his letter to Anthony Cooper, known him as Tom Sawyer. Jacob approaches James and gazes his fingers as he hands him a pen to replace his own, which he's just run out of ink. Immediately after Jacob's departure, James's uncle Doug prompts him to get ready to leave for the cemetery. Doug reads the first half of the letter James wrote and tells him he shouldn't seek revenge but move on because what's done is done. And James promises that he's not going to finish that letter, but we know he does. Back to the island, Kate convinces Juliet and Sawyer that they need to stop Jack from detonating a hydrogen bomb on the island. They manage to break free, Juliet specifically, and force the captain to surface, telling him to continue on his course as soon as they leave the submarine. When Captain asks what to say if Horace calls him, Sawyer, in response, shoots at the radio, "You ain't home." Locke assigns Ben the task of killing Jacob and provides motivation by reminding Ben of all the bad things that have happened to him and all the things that he's done, and Jacob's never even seen him, like he's never seen Jacob before. Then we have another flashback. Saeed and Nadia walk through Los Angeles. Jacob approaches Saeed and asks him for directions, mentioning that he is lost. Nadia continues across the street where a car hits her when she stops in the middle of the street and turns to Saeed. Jacob touches Saeed's shoulder, then Saeed runs to her side as the driver drives away. As she lies mortally wounded on the street, she asks Saeed in Arabic to take her home. Richard Alpert and Eloise Hawking assist Jack and Saeed in entering the barracks via the basement of Horace and Amy's house. Eloise is about to enter the basement to secure the area, but Richard knocks her out because she is pregnant and he doesn't want her traveling with them to detonate the bomb. He leaves Saeed and Jack on their own. There is a lot of activity outside, so Saeed dons one of Horace's Dharma jumpsuits in order to blend in. However, as they cross an area, Roger Linus recognizes and shoots him in the stomach because you're the one that shot my boy. And a gunfight follows, but Jack and Saeed escape with Jin and Miles in a van driven by Hurley, who drives toward the construction site of the Swan while Jack treats Saeed's wounds. Sawyer, Kate, and Juliet arrive on the island. They are greeted by Vincent, the dog, who has been in the care of Rose and Bernard for the past 3 years. Wow, we haven't seen Rose and Bernard in a while. They found us, Rose says. Bernard says, "Son of a bitch." Rose explains that she and Bernard are now retired and live a quiet life in their cabin near the beach, scavenging food and avoiding detection from the Dharma Initiative. Bernard says all he and Rose care about is being together. When he says this, Juliet sees Sawyer look at Kate. Juliet insists that they need to get back to the barracks, and Rose points them in the right direction, and Juliet passes on tea that Bernard offers and says maybe another time. Ilana, Bram, and Lapidus with the cargo travel to Jacob's cabin, where they find the ring of ash disturbed. Then we have another flashback. Sometime prior to 2007, Ilana lies in a hospital bed in Russia, heavily bandaged, when a nurse arrives and informs her that a person has come to visit her. She insists that Ilana should see him as he is her first visitor. Jacob arrives and apologizes to her in Russian for not visiting earlier. In English, he asks her to help him, and she says she will. Ilana enters the cabin and finds it in disarray, deserted except for a scrap of cloth bearing a picture of the statue. Ilana tells the others that the he isn't here or isn't there and that someone else has been using it. She orders the cabin be set on fire and the group proceeds to the statue. Then we have Locke, Ben, Son, and Richard stop to take a brief break at the Oceanic survivors' old campsite. As Ben sits in solitude, Locke approaches him and notes the remnant of the hatch door behind them, saying where they first met. Or saying that's where they first met. Locke wants to ask Ben about the day they visited Jacob's cabin, and Ben admits he lied and that he was talking to an empty chair, though he was as much surprised as John when things started to fly around. When asked why all the trouble making such things up, Ben responds that he was ashamed that he never saw Jacob and didn't want Locke to know about it. Ben then asks why it must be he who kills Jacob. And Locke reminds Ben of all his misfortunes that he had in the name of Jacob, a man he has never met. So the question is, Ben, why the hell wouldn't you want to kill Jacob? Son sees the crib Locke made for Aaron, and then she turns it over. She finds Charlie's DS driveshaft ring. Another flashback, we have Jin and Son exchange vows at their wedding. Jin claims that being separated from his wife would be much like Earth being separated from the sky. And then at the reception, after being congratulated by Son's aunt, Jacob approaches and says he wants to give them his blessing, touching each one of them on the shoulder with each of his hands. He tells them in Korean that their love is special and then not to take for granted. After he leaves, both are perplexed at exactly who he was, though Jin remarks that his Korean was excellent. And then we have Hurley stops the van when he sees Juliet, Sawyer, and Kate standing in his way, and that's what ends part 1 of the incident. Part 2 starts with Sawyer wanting to talk to Jack, and he only needs 5 minutes. Then we have a flashback. While performing his first solo surgery in residency, Jack accidentally nicks the patient's dural sac. He begins to panic, but Christian tells him to count to 5 and get a grip. Later, after his Apollo bar gets stuck in the vending machine, Jack is angry at Christian for embarrassing him in front of his team. Christian implies that Jack doesn't have faith in himself. As Jack starts to walk away, Jacob offers him the candy bar retrieved from the vending machine. He grazes Jack's hand and as he hands it over and says, "I guess it needed a little push." And Jack and Sawyer discuss the situation away from the other survivors. Sawyer expresses his opinion that what's done is done and they shouldn't try to change the past. Jack argues that it's his destiny to change the past and that John Locke has always been right about the island. Jack and Sawyer get into a fistfight, which is broken up by Juliet, who now agrees with Jack. Juliet tells Sawyer she changed her mind. Then we have another flashback. In 1981, Mr. and Mrs. Carlson sit down with their 10-year-old daughter Juliet and 12-year-old daughter Rachel, informing them that they have to talk about something important. Rachel is upset and tells Juliet their parents are getting a divorce. They said that they love each other, but are just not meant to be together. Juliet is enraged and runs off, refusing their offers of help her cope. She cannot understand how two people can love each other but not stay together. Her mother tells her that she will understand when she is older, but Juliet shouts that she does not want to. And then when Sawyer asks what changed Juliet's mind, she tells him it was the way he looked at Kate. She tells him that although they love each other, they are not meant to be together, and if they never met, it means she will never have to lose him. Jack views the construction site, noting that the incident is about to happen. Jack pleads Kate for her support, which she gives him after his argument that preventing the plane crash is the best way for Aaron to be reunited with Claire, and that nothing in his life has ever felt so right. And where the hell is Claire, by the way? She just kind of disappeared last season. Back to another flashback. Hurley is being released from prison. He tries to convince the prison clerk that he shouldn't be released because he is a murderer, but the uninterested clerk states that the discharge form says that he has been cleared, so take your stuff and go. Hurley continues to protest, but the clerk merely directs him to the cab stand outside. Hurley hops into one, which he soon realizes is already occupied. He apologizes and makes it to get another one, but the passenger, Jacob, says that he's only going a few blocks and offers to share. Hurley gets in. On the seat between them is a guitar case. After establishing that Jacob was not in the prison, Hurley asks why he was waiting in a cab outside of one, to which Jacob responds, "I was waiting for you, Hugo." Hurley then assumes that Jacob must be one of the dead people that he sees and talks with, but Jacob assures him that he is not dead. He asks Hurley why he won't go back to the island, and Hurley says he believes that he is cursed and he has caused all the death and tragedy that has surrounded him. That's why the plane crashed. My friends die, Libby, Charlie, and now they visit me, and I can't make it stop. Jacob rhetorically asks him to consider that perhaps the ability to speak with the dead friends could also be seen as a blessing, since he gets to talk to the people he's lost, to which Hurley responds that it would be wonderful if he wasn't crazy. Jacob assures Hurley that he's not crazy. Hurley mulls over this for a moment before asking, "Who are you, dude?" Jacob responds by telling him, the cab driver, "I'm just up here, on the corner." He then tells Hurley about Ajira Flight 316 and says all he has to do is be on that plane. He touches Hurley on the shoulder and reminds him that it is his choice. As Jacob leaves the cab, Hurley tells them that he left his guitar. Jacob says it's not his guitar and walks away. It's probably Charlie's guitar. At the remains of the statue, Locke and Ben appear to be surprised when Richard tells them that this is where Jacob lives. Son asks Ben what happened to the rest of the statue. Ben says he doesn't know, although Son doesn't believe him. Then we have another flashback. Jacob is reading a book on a bench outside a building in Tuscan, California. Behind him, John Locke falls to the ground after being pushed out of the 8th-story window by an Anthony Cooper. As bystanders rush to the scene, Jacob calmly closes his book and approaches John Locke. Locke appears to have died on impact, but when Jacob touches his shoulder, Locke gasps and opens his eyes. Jacob tells him everything he will be all right, and he is sorry that this happened to him. Son asks Ben what happened to the rest of the statue, and like I said, Ben says he doesn't know, and Son doesn't believe him. And then Locke demands to be led to Jacob. He brings Ben with him against Richard's witches. He accuses Richard of making the rules up as he goes. Richard pushes a stone door open, and Ben and Locke enter a chamber in the base of the statue. Locke hands Ben a knife, telling him that things will change once Jacob is gone. Ben looks up through an opening of the roof and the remaining foot of the statue. Miles mentions that maybe Jack is going to cause what he's trying to prevent. With everyone now agreeing on the upcoming plan, Jack enters the construction site of the Swan Station. At the same time, security officer Phil arrives with a team of armed men. The other 1977 survivors assist Jack in taking the Swan site. As Jack sneaks into the area, he is spotted by Phil, who begins shooting at Jack. Rosinski's surprise, a Dharma van speeds up to the gunfight, and Kate, Juliet, Miles, and Sawyer jump out and cover Jack. Sawyer grabs Phil and holds him hostage. Kill Phil, that son of a bitch, for beating up Juliet. And telling Pierre Chang to stop the drill, is what Rosinski says. Chang responds that he can't since the drill is being pulled into a shaft by itself. Rosinski shouts that the drill has hit a pocket of electromagnetism. As the gunfire stops, Jack drops the bomb's core into the drilling shaft, but nothing happens. Suddenly, a strange noise emanates from the site. A puff of steam shoots out of the shaft, and small magnetic objects like handguns and tools begin being pulled into the hole. The energy grows and pulls larger objects like wheelbarrows, oil drums, and iron beams. Jack is hit in the head by a flying toolbox. The large drilling apparatus collapses, crushing Chang's hand. He is rescued by Miles and flees the site. Rosinski and his men try to drive away in the Jeep, but the magnetism topples the car and prevents them from escaping. Phil retrieves his weapon and prepares to execute an unarmed Sawyer, but metal scaffolding falls on top of him, and a flying rebar impales him, killing that bastard Phil. Good. A heavy metal chain is pulled toward the shaft, wrapping itself around Juliet and taking her with it. Sawyer and Kate rush to her assistance. Sawyer initially grabs Juliet's arm to try to pull her out of the hole, but unfortunately he fails as she plunges down the shaft. Outside, the Ajiro group arrives and Ilana asks for Ricardus. She asks him what lies in the shadow of the statue. Richard replies in Latin, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that, he who will save us all. Ilana reveals the contents of the crate. John Locke's dead body. What the fuck? Which Ilana's crew found in the cargo hold of Azura 316. Sun asks, if that's Locke, then who is in there? Dun dun dun. Jacob immediately recognizes the true identity of Locke's impersonator and remarks, well, I guess you found your loophole. The imposter replies that he had indeed, and he has no idea what he's done to get here. So the imposter is the man in black that can shapeshift into other people, and that person is also the smoke monster, or the monster, to make sense of everything. So, cloud of smoke, dead people like Christian Shepherd, and Echo's relative, I can't remember what the guy's name was, the guy that was really a priest, and John Locke. It's all shifted into the man in black, who's played by the guy that plays Bosch, Titus Wheeler or something like that. Jacob tells Ben that no matter what he has been told, he still has a choice, that he can simply leave so the two adversaries can discuss their issues. Ben asks Jacob about all the times he was neglected and ignored despite his faithful service, complains that Locke was the favored one, and asks, what about me? Jacob's only reply is, what about you? After hearing this, Ben snaps and stabs Jacob twice. At this point, Jacob touches Ben. Jacob whispers to Locke's impersonator, they're coming. The impersonator rolls Jacob into the fire pit and the center of the room, where he starts to burn. And then we have Jack, who regains consciousness after being hit with the lunchbox, or toolbox, I should say, not lunchbox, and helps Kate pull a distraught Sawyer off the wreckage of the drilling apparatus, which collapses into the shaft. In a pocket underneath the wreckage, a severely injured Juliet sees the bomb lying next to her, cushioned by the mud. She picks up a rock and hits the hydrogen bomb fission one a core 8 times until a flash of white and the noise of an explosion end the episode and the season of Lost. So pretty good episode. Lots of interesting things here. Reveal that the man in black, who's like Jacob's brother, also was Christian Shepherd, which they didn't say in the episode, but he's the smoke monster, Christian Shepherd, Echo's relative that was really a priest, and John Locke. He can be different people. But anyway, I'm going to score the episode a 9.3 out of 10. And trying to pick a character of the episode here, I think the standout characters are Sawyer, Juliet, Jack, Kate, and Jacob. One could argue other characters, but they had the most. Ben. God, I forgot about Ben. In my notes, I forgot to put Ben. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Lost and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you'll Hulk smash the like button, share the video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section and interact with me and the legendary Crazy Coffee Man. I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about this episode. Let me know all your opinions, your characters of the episode, and your score of the episode. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel, join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.